For the past 6 decades, springtime begins on an unassuming quarter-mile track in southern Indiana. And it's on this hallowed ground where champions are born.
Dudes hitting the gas on the repeat. Delta Gamma in the yellow jerseys down the stretch to win the 2013 Little 500.
Last year, the ladies of Delta Gamma pulled off a repeat. But will this year's all-rookie team bring home a third for DG? Or will 2014 be a first for Alpha Chi Omega, who sits atop the pole? But one of the most dominant teams of the past decade is back. Will Teter stand atop the podium on race day and claim their 4th victory? Live from Indiana University, this is the 27th running of the Women's Little 500 on AXS TV.
Riders readying under blue skies in Bloomington for the big race, the 27th running of the Women's Little 500. And for many alums, they will tell you that one of the highlights of their time at IU is participating in the Little 5. Good crowd on hand at Armstrong Stadium. It's the Little 500 presented by the Indiana University Student Foundation, the 27th running of the women's race. Welcome to Bloomington. Rich Cellini alongside Jason Sonnenborn, Hans Arneson. Jason, let's begin with you. The race is the focal point this afternoon, but when you look at it, the year as a whole, it's bigger than that.
It's such a special event here in Bloomington, Indiana. It's my 13th year calling the race. And since 1951 at Indiana University, we've been having this special event. The original mission of the foundation being to do 2 things. 1, build student leaders through philanthropy and service. Still accomplish that today. 2, all the proceeds from the race go to scholarships for working students. Millions of dollars raised today. So the original mission of Herman Wells and Howdy Wilcox are still fulfilled today. You'll see 20,000 people here cheering on sororities, independent teams, and dormitories for the 27th running of the Little 500.
Personally, what's your best memory as a rider?
It's really the camaraderie. It's after the race is all said and done, not only walking around and shaking the hands of all your competitors and friends, but the network and the community that you'll feel for years to come. For me, it's been 13 years since I've raced, and I still feel it today.
Hans, a Hall of Famer and a champion in this event. Let's focus on the women's race. Can you handicap it?
Yeah, last year the storyline was really the veteran, experienced teams, and this year a lot of them have graduated. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of rookie riders, inexperienced teams. So I think what we're going to see today are the teams that do the little things right are going to end up on lap 100 with a chance to take the checkered flag.
How much do you put into the spring series events, putting toward a favorite for today?
Put a lot into that. The events leading up to today's race mean a lot to show who are the strongest riders and who are the strongest teams, so who has the best chance of winning today.
Speaking of winners, we're going to be joined by the coach of the last 2 winners in the women's race. Here's Pam Lobeg, who coached DG to back-to-back championships. Pam.
Yep, had to hand over the reins and let last year's rider take over as coaching. Man, what a day we have here, and I think it's going to be a pretty crazy race. You've got the rookie riders that we talked about, but then also it was a tough winter. They didn't have as much time on the track, and that on top of the fact that a lot of teams think they have a chance today, I think it's going to be pretty aggressive and wild out there.
Pam's resume right there, back-to-back championships. Also the IU Foundation, the race director from 2009 to 2011, so we have worked close with her through the years. Well, the athletes are certainly a large part of this and the bike, but the rules of this race do make it unique. 100 laps, they have to do the 5 exchanges, but that bike's such a great equalizer.
It always is the same gear that every team has to pedal. They can get up to 2 bikes per team, change the saddle height a little bit for each rider if they're doing a bike-to-bike exchange, but otherwise it's going to come down to pushing the same gear, see who's got the strongest legs.
Well, we know DG were the champions a year ago. Jason, let's look back on last year's race. We didn't know a lot coming in about the field as a whole. We knew there were some seniors. We know DG would be good. Again, they pulled it out. Deja Dukes, we called it.
It was Deja Dukes last year, winning her 2nd championship for Delta Gamma. The race was really made by Kappa Gamma. They accelerated well before lap 90. Delta Gamma sat and they waited. They were patient. There you can see him sitting on Kat Chominiak's wheel from Kappa Alpha Theta. And of course, Deja Dukes, 2 victories for Kelsey Dukes from Delta Gamma.
Well, Alpha Chi Omega, a team that certainly has had some success, but they haven't got their name on the trophy, and that's what everybody wants. Can they get over the hump this year with 2 veteran riders? Let's take a closer look.
With no victories in their 21-year history, Alpha Chi Omega was a dark horse at best heading into the 2014 season. But the ladies of ACHIO made a statement on qualifications day as they took the pole, earning them the green jerseys.
4 years ago, when I started as a freshman, as a rookie, all rookie team, no experience, never qualified first, obviously. So this year has just been honestly super exciting.
We've always been up there, but we've never been the team to watch. Teter's always had a good reputation and up there, so I think now we're finally getting more serious and we're able to get up there with them, which is nice because it's some friendly competition.
Like is the loudest, and you always hear them, and other teams always like joke about it.
The
Like,
obnoxious, yeah. They just have really down-to-earth girls, and they're just fun, nice, genuine Midwestern girls. So being from New York, I kind of like that, getting out of the bubble. So it's been great. We're gonna be in the zone for sure. We're gonna have our chef. He's gonna make us big omelets. We're gonna stomachs full and just hopefully in the zone.
I don't have another chance. This is my 4th and final race. Being able to take that to the track and take that as we start in the #1 spot, come those pace laps. And I think it's just gonna be what makes me work even harder.
Green's my favorite color, as I think most of them, so it's kind of cool when we put it up and we just knew that we were rocking the Kelly green. It's pretty awesome.
Is this their year?
Well, expect a lot from Alpha Chi Omega today. With a 10th place finish 2 years ago, a 6th place finish, and a lot of experience in their pit. Dave Harsad, a winner for Phi Gamma Delta in 1995. They're wearing their green jersey, they're hungry, they're competitive. Expect a great race from Alpha Chi Omega.
Teter always has to be in that conversation. You like them heading into today?
Absolutely. They've proven themselves this spring by winning the Spring Series events. So they're wearing the white jersey today. That shows great depth on their team and also great individual riders who've proven themselves and missing out, such as Emma Coughlin.
You know, and they also have a coach who's pretty energetic and spirited, and if your team takes on the personality of a coach, hey, watch out. Here's a closer look at Teter.
This is our event, okay? Smile, be happy out there.
Won Spring Series again this year, which is awesome for us. We won it last year and 5 consecutive years, I'm pretty sure. Spring Series? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
5 in a row.
Chris has been our coach since 2005, and they won that year. So it's his 9th year coaching Teter. He's our biggest fan, and he's very enthusiastic.
Go, go, go! 3 to go! They're falling off! Let's finish hard! Get him! Get him! Get him! They're falling off! Go! 2 to go! Get him!
We can see him really well when we're riding, since he's like 6'5" and just jumping around and flailing his arms. I mean, he's always yelling encouraging things and yelling at us to go faster and work harder and push ourselves, so it's always positive.
Woo! Ready.
Winning is the best feeling ever. Winning Little 5, it's unreal. So it'd be awesome to just cap off my career winning a 2nd race. That'd be an awesome feeling. And having all the rest of the girls on the team get to appreciate that, it'd be amazing. It's my senior year, and winning would just be the icing on top of the best 4 years of my life thus far. Riding for Teter, you know, winning or not winning has been the best decision I made in college. And I really do see us holding that trophy up.
Can they get it done this year?
I think they've got a great chance, and they undeniably have the most enthusiastic coach out there.
Absolutely. It's going to be a wide open field and a wild afternoon of racing. Will it be one of the favorites, or will it be somebody coming from the back of the pack to capture the 27th running of the women's Little 500? More pageantry to come from Armstrong Stadium as we work our way toward race time in the Little 5.
The Little 500 on AXS TV is sponsored in part by B97, Blue Line Media Productions, Canary Cyclewear, Coca-Cola, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IMU Dining Services Sodexo, and by Lamar Advertising.
Working our way toward race time in what has turned out to be a perfect afternoon here in Bloomington. Rain showers in the morning, and then it cleared, and the wind has picked up a little bit, gentlemen. What will the wind do to today's race?
Personally, I think it could create a lot of opportunities for unknown teams. There's a lot of inexperience in this race with like 30 of the top 50 girls from teams graduating last year. In fact, Delta Gamma has no returning riders from their championship team of last year. I think the wind's impact could be a team like Crew or a team like Melanzana could sneak up and surprise the favorites, which are AKO and Teter.
You see a lot of wind every year, it seems like, in this race, and it's coming out of the same place. Blowing into turn 2, and I think that's where we're going to see some of the action as well. It's harder because you don't have the wind coming down the back stretch as much, so it's going to be harder for the teams at Echelon, and I think it will create more opportunities, like Jason said.
Well, some of the other things we see are some crashes, all part of racing, as you guys know too well, as you have, I'm sure, some cinders left in your legs and knees, and the women's race is no different.
Oh, and there was a crash in the back of the field. Sometimes riders just overlap. Oh, and the cutter riders, we just had a crash.
And now we've got our pile up on the back.
And you've got bikes on top of people on tops of bikes.
And there's our first wreck.
Oh, big wreck on the backside.
And there we've got a yard sale pile up. And we've got our first crash at the back of the pack.
Absolute carnage. We had a guy on his top tube here.
Oh, and a spill by Kappa Gamma.
They're not having quite the day they had hoped for there.
Oh, look at that, just get away and some of the bumping and a little mishap.
Beating up some laps. I think he wanted.
Oh, and we got a 3 now down.
Oh, that was not a good exchange. Really just chain reaction crashes, you know.
Oh, and that one you really can't see what happened.
Looked like somebody got stuck on the gutter there and just went all
crash,
the outside.
another rider still down. Well, it's certainly part of the training, and we've known it to become part of the race, those crashes, which can really flip some teams up.
It can really decide the race from time to time, and in fact, it's just inevitable in any kind of racing. In fact, in the Little 500 riding a coaster brake, and this is the reason why we have coaster brakes, exchanges here. A team has 32 feet or 2 pits to do their exchanges. And there you saw a rider exchange. Here you're getting a great vantage point from Google Glass, coming in from behind. The right elbow is out perfectly in a 90-degree angle. And what we want to do is put the stem right in the hand of that rider picking up the bike, which you can see done very well in that example.
And the next best thing for that rider who's grabbing the bike is to get up to full speed when they're running and sprinting before they hop on. That allows the rider to transition back onto the bike, pedaling with some speed already, and get back into the pack.
So wait a minute, we've gone from the days of typewriters, when you look back at the historical pictures of this event, to Google Glass.
To Google Glass today, but the thing that has not changed very much is the bicycles. 46x18 gear. Schwinn made them in the first year. Howdy Wilcox called Wisconsin, said, Schwinn, I need some bicycles. $1,700, he made a purchase, got bicycles for 33 teams. We ride the same exact bicycles today, and in fact, the race is very similar to when we started. 33 teams, 11 rows, patterned just like the Indianapolis 500.
It is an awesome event, and for more, Hans, you want to take us through what makes this bike so unique? Come on, you're the Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. So here you are with the Little 500 bike. Every team has the same frame. They're allowed to make slight modifications, but not too much. You can't change up the gears. The gears that you have, you got a 46-18. That's a pretty hard gear. You can top it out probably around 28, 30 miles an hour. You have the coaster brakes, just like you used to ride as a kid, so you can come sliding into your pit. You have the same size wheels. Nobody can change that. You also have the 32mm tires. That gives you a bit more grip on this cinder track. And you also have the flat rubber pedals. There's no clips on these bikes. You have to ride on flat, normal tennis shoes.
You know, it's an interesting bike when you look at it. You know, you bring up the idea of one you rode with the brake as a kid, that, you know, it has the handlebar that looks like a road bike, but the tire on it looks like one you rode as a child.
Yeah, you're right. There's no brakes on the front.
No.
That's what you look for, and in a lot of bike races, you can really monitor your speed very easily, but with the coaster brakes, you really have to hit it hard in order to slow down.
How long did it take each of you to get used to the bike?
Well, you start on it early. In fact, the more you ride that bike and get used to the gear, the better you're going to be race day. But to answer your question directly, Rich, I think showing up for the race the first time, the great thing is to make the race safe is we have practice races ahead of time. But it takes a couple months in order to get up to speed on it for sure.
Good and gracious God, who create, sustain our life, who strengthen us, and provide us with nourishment all the days of our life. Lead us in our lives upon a path leading ever back to you. We thank you for allowing us to be here today for this event, for granting us a break in our work and in our studies, for giving us a time of leisure, recreation, and of fun to spend together. We pray that you will pour out your abundant blessings upon all those who participate in the Little 500. May you guide them, protect them, and keep them safe throughout this race, and allow your goodness to shine forth through them. And we also at this time direct our prayers and thoughts in a very special way to Lauren Gill and her family. We pray that you will be with her, Lord, and her family at this time, and grant Lauren a full and speedy recovery, for we trust in your divine wisdom and goodness. We ask all this in your most holy name. Amen.
Presenting the colors today, the Pershing Rifles Color Guard from Indiana University Army ROTC. I use Pershing Rifles as a competitive drill and honor squad, consistently receiving high marks in national competition. Please join our riders and coaches in celebrating America's freedom and those who now protect it. We especially honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to introduce to you two-time Grammy Award-winning vocalist Sylvia McNair and her duet partner Tim Walsh. Sylvia hails from Mansfield, Ohio, a proud alumnus of Indiana University and a member of the Jacobs School of Music. Please rise, remove your caps, as Sylvia and Tim present our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and their rockets
Sylvia McNair, Tim Walsh. And coming to us now here at Armstrong Stadium, Skydive Indianapolis, bringing our colors to us.
Skydivers making their way in and pretty close to that mark of the little 500 logo as the stands continue to fill. Wonderful rendition of our national anthem.
As the starting riders come to the start-finish line and we get ready for racing,
Riders
we present
their way out to
Indiana
their bikes
University's
as the stars and stripes.
through another round.
And our final skydiver makes their way toward the field here at Armstrong Stadium.
Fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home.
If you are in the infield and not wearing official credentials as a participant or official, please move into the stands or spectator area. Only properly accredited personnel are permitted in the infield during the race. We welcome to the stage today's race starter, IU Student Foundation staff member Tom McGlasson. Tom has been on IU Foundation's Board of Associates for over 30 years and is an active supporter of the IU Student Foundation. He's been to 52 Little 500 races, only missing 2 women's races in all of his years with the foundation. Mr. McGlasson.
On behalf of Bill Armstrong, for whom this stadium is so appropriately named, and on behalf of the thousands of former Student Foundation members and the many volunteers whose combined efforts have made this event what it is today, and on behalf of the thousands of riders, and especially the women riders of the last 26 years who have paved the way for you to ride in today's race, it is my privilege to say, have a great race. keep your heads up, ride smart, be safe, Godspeed, and good luck. And now, it is an honor for me to say those famous words. Ladies, mount your little 500 bicycles.
And with that, we get ready to go in the little 500. Student body enjoying this, and the IU nursing team will lead the pack. And they will lead the pack. Lauren Gill, one of their members, had an accident. You see the stickers on a number of the riders' helmets saying Lauren Gill. Incurred a head injury. Is in very serious condition, but we're happy to report has improved, is out of critical condition. Long-term effects won't be known for some time, but her other three teammates on the IU team, there's Lauren on the right, her sister Kelsey, and the other IU nursing team members will ride today. And to honor them in this first warm-up lap, the IU nursing team will get to lead the pack.
And it's customary in so many bicycle races. We've seen in the Tour de France, if there is an accident, somebody's been injured, the team that starts on the front, they'll pay a tribute to the down or injured rider. And so you can see IU nursing, you saw them in that picture with their qualifying time of 3:07. And although they will start farther back in the race, the customary lap, and we'd like IU nursing to go ahead and take the lead in honor of Lauren.
Well, Jason, you had talked about your great memories of the teammates and the relationship you made, and I know you've been out and about during the week, as have you, Hans, and this yet another show of support. Very unfortunate accident, but the entire community rallying around.
They are. That's great to see, and it's really unfortunate, but we hope all the best for Lauren and quick recovery.
And in fact, Lauren she was in a coma earlier in the week, but now she is conscious and she's in a stabilized, normal hospital room, I believe in Indianapolis Methodist Hospital. So she's come around, and just like the race is starting to come around today, you hear our fight song so proudly sung, and the girls in IU Nursing School will certainly represent Lauren well in the Little 500 today.
All right, and now we'll do one more warm-up lap as we set the grid for this 27th running of the women's Little 500s. Begin with Alpha Chi Omega.
Well, of course, they got the green jersey for the fastest qualification time. Alpha Chi Omega starting on the front and led by their senior, Kelsey Tharnstrom. She's done fantastic in both the individual time trials and missing out. So look for a great result from Alpha Chi today.
How about Melanzana, a team we haven't talked about yet, but could certainly make some noise?
Yeah, absolutely. Melanzana, they have proven themselves with the second place in qualifications today.
Kappa Alpha Theta, one of our old favorites. Kappa Alpha Theta with 4 wins in the race. They finished second the last 2 years, so everybody likes the second place sweetheart. Look for Kappa Alpha Theta to be real strong at the end of this race and hungry.
We talked at that open about how many new riders there will be. What are some of the mistakes that jump out as a first-time rider in this event?
Well, for me, this race just goes by so fast as a freshman or a rookie rider, and you can miss a lot of things. You have kind of tunnel vision. You're not looking at the whole race, whereas seniors seem to have this 360-degree perspective of everything going on. So what happens with that, you can start staring at the rider or the tire in front of you. You could rub tires, cause a crash. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of things that could happen.
It's a pretty good story right here in the purple jersey with ski.
Yeah, there's a lot of new teams in the race. You know, Crew is starting on row number 2, and you also see Ski in row number 3. That's the IU Ski Club, and instead of going to Aspen for spring break, they stayed right here at Bill Armstrong Stadium and trained hard for this little 500. See the Christian Student Foundation, and of course Teter. Teter with 3 wins, looking for number 4 today. Very strong team led by Emma Coughlin, sister of David Coughlin, who rode for Cutters. Look for Teter going aggressively after a 4th victory today.
And of course, Delta Gamma. We're in the yellow jersey out there representing it well. All freshmen, or I'm sorry, sophomore, but all rookie riders this year for them.
will be racing in just a few moments here at the 27th.
And Hans, how tough is that going to be wearing the yellow jersey? You got the marked color on your back, and you're coming back. But this is the first race for all 4 girls.
That almost doesn't seem fair.
That's a tough, it's something tough to hold on your shoulders.
That's a lot of pressure on
You
your
get to
shoulders.
wear yellow, and I've never even been in the race.
It goes by so fast. I've heard it described as like chaos on the highway at 100 miles per hour. It just, you're going so fast, and there's 20,000 people here in the crowd. People are yelling, cinders are popping up in your face. In that first race, Delta Gamma is just going to need to stay focused and concentrate on what they know and what they've learned from some of the veterans, like Pam Lobeck, who's coached them in the past.
Then we'll pick up the pace a little bit here and hopefully get to racing. What a day. This is just spectacular under the Bloomington sunshine. And before we get to racing, here's Pam.
Yeah, so I talked to our 2 favorites going into this race. You've got Teter and Alpha Chi Omega. I asked Teter, do you want to wait for it to be a sprint, or are you going to try to break away? And they actually feel comfortable with both options. They showed in Team Pursuit that they were able to time trial, and then with Emma missing out, they feel comfortable with the sprint. Although they did say they'd rather seal it and get away from the pack. So look for them to try to make a groove around lap 80. Then talking to Alpha Chi Omega, they're going into a sprint, but Kelsey Tharnstrom, she's been sick, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
27th running of the women's Little 500.
And it looks like that illness that Kelsey had, I've heard that she's had the flu for a couple weeks, really not impacting her today, at least on this first lap. It's going to be a race of attrition, but she's coming out of the gates strong, pulling very hard down the backstretch.
I don't think she's been on the bike for a few days, so she said she's going to see how she feels out there, but with this rookie field, she's not a rookie. She's ridden this race 3 times before. This is her 4th time. She wants to make this race fast from the start, hopefully spread it out. And she did a 33-lap set to start the race last year, so we'll see how she's feeling today.
Teter putting a little bit of move on at the beginning. Melanzana still hanging tight along with Alpha Chi Omega, and keep an eye on the pack. We've seen chaos when everybody is bunched together at the beginning. 39 tried to get in, 33 qualified. A full field in 2014.
When you see 2 independent teams on the front, I know Hans is paying attention. You see Melanzana there in the black and Crew in the light blue jersey. 2 independent teams, both in the top 5 last year, just off to a great start, moving right up.
I also just watched Chi Omega. I think that's Erin Dahl riding right to the front. Their team started 20th. I think they had to go to their 2nd attempt on qualifications, but she had no problem getting right up to the front.
Wide open field. 30 of the top 50 riders from a year ago have graduated. A lot of new faces.
And Crew Cycling driving it across the start-finish line, getting a little bit of face time early. Crew's actually a Christian ministry service here on campus. Oh, and we see our first wreck.
Towards the back of the pack, it looks like 4 teams went down.
4 riders down. 2 still down.
Still don't see a yellow flag.
Yeah,
well, now we do.
Now it comes out. There in the back.
Ooh, and an endo from the girl on the outside. She's right up and okay, which is great to see. You know, I know Air Force was involved in this crash. That's team number 18. Ooh, and then the bike happens to get in the way, head over heels over the handlebars.
Yeah, one thing you want to watch out for are those gears, those teeth coming down right onto your leg or your thigh. That's one thing that could hurt you for sure.
And you cringe a little bit seeing that, don't you, Hans? And you can see our medical personnel taking care of a rider on the infield now.
Yeah, I know. She's close to the gutter. I wonder if she came down and maybe landed on her collarbone or something on the hardest part of the track right there. See her grabbing her collarbone. It's a common cycling injury, either from falling down and planting your wrist or else falling directly onto your shoulder.
Delta Phi Epsilon rider still down by the gutter on the infield. personnel tending to the rider.
Well, and that's one of the things. Bike racing is so much fun and it's so exciting, but you know, injuries do happen out here, and I guess it's part of the sport. But the IU Student Foundation and the IU Foundation does so much to make this race safe, and I think now's a good chance to talk about it. You can see the medical personnel down on the field. We also have 2 practice races that lead up to this event, just so that we can make the race safer and girls have enough time to understand what it's like to ride in the pack, and in fact go through that starting grid and experience not a full 100-lap race, but I think it's boiled down to a 25-lap race for the practice races.
All right, we'll step aside and come back, check on our injured riders and the field as well when we come back to the 27th running of the Women's Little 500 here on AXS TV.
The Little 500 on AXS TV is sponsored in part by Mass Ave Criterium, Panaracer, Pizza X, Power Bar, Smallwood Plaza Apartments, and TIS College Bookstore.
Race day is a flash. It goes by very quickly.
You kind of go into your own little zone.
Unlike any experience you'll ever see or participate in.
Race day is an adventure with all of my sorority sisters cheering and all of the hard work that we've put in. It's truly a thrilling experience and just a race of a lifetime.
We're back to racing. Alexis Cohn, the injured rider, and for more on her condition, here's Pam.
Yeah, unfortunate to have a crash so early in the race, but it looks like she's going to be just fine. When they crash and their helmet cracks, they have to put them on a backboard, but she's conscious and moving around, and the medical professional said she should be okay.
Thank you, Pam. That's the type of report we like to hear, and we're back to racing conditions here in the sunshine and breeze of Bloomington.
Yeah, and we're so early in the race. I think here we are on lap 8, and you can see some of the perennial favorites out there on the front. You see Kappa Alpha Theta in red. You see Teter in white. Also Phi Mu with a strong start. They're wearing the pink color jerseys.
And those few laps of the yellow flag might mean a few more laps on these first riders set. They got a little bit of rest there, so they might ride a little bit longer than they normally would have planned.
And in a women's race, it's not uncommon to have one rider chew up the majority of the laps.
No, and we heard that about Kelsey Tharnstrom from Alpha Chi Omega last year. She did a 33-lap set. As you see the first Melanzana exchange right there. Melanzana finishing in the top 5 last year. Really doing an exchange kind of early, Hans. What do you think at lap 9?
Yeah, I was just talking about how I thought they might stay out there a little bit longer, but their coach has a change of plans and he wants a fresh rider out there. They've chosen that back end of the back stretch as their pit location. Seems to be working out for them. She's having to work a little bit, get caught back up to the main pack.
Hans, you obviously raced in this, Jason, as did you, but you also coached. What was your preferred pit location?
I always like this front section here, the main start-finish area. You can kind of use the tailwind section to catch up after you're getting back onto the bike after an exchange, but it's definitely up to each coach, and as you saw from Melanzana, they have a strategy there going into the backside.
That's certainly one of the unique things about Little 500. You choose your pits based on where you qualify, and Hans mentioned being in the front stretch. That's because he coached a sorority team, and they needed a lot of room for all the fans. But, so that's one strategy to take. You get face time, you're on the front stretch, but the back stretch, where the cutters have traditionally chosen, in fact, Delta Tau Delta has chosen there recently, that's a place to kind of hide away from some of the competition. Today you see Teter on the backstretch as well as Melanzana and Crew Cycling.
So is it to try to hide your hand as to what you're going to do so if everybody else is placed here on the front side can't exactly see what you're doing exchange-wise?
It's a little bit of hide your hand. It also cuts down on the number of laps you might do to close, right? So on the backstretch, you're a half lap. You've got a half lap difference from the front stretch. So it is a way to hide a little bit. It's a way to group yourself away from some of the chaos that can happen on the front stretch.
And talking to Teter's coach about that this morning, he said that it's also great to have that location so that you don't have as many of the top teams chasing you down on every exchange, because traditionally some of the better qualifying teams will pick the start-finish stretch here.
Yes.
So a little bit hidden. it's a misnomer to say there's no chaos in the backstretch, because in fact that's where a lot of the lower qualifying teams are. But as Hans mentions, kind of lay low a little bit on the backstretch, and that's why I think Teter and Melanzana and crew have chosen those spots.
Right, and to your point, some of the lower qualifying teams obviously are not as skilled, and exchanges are a lot harder than they look.
It's not an easy thing to master, and certainly in your first year, you're gonna feel the cinders a couple times. So we'll see a little bit of that on the backstretch today.
Just hopping onto that bike takes weeks of work to build up the confidence to take a running start and put both legs over the saddle.
And you'll see two different types of exchanges today. In fact, all the women, a team of 4 has 2 bikes to work with. So you talk about being a great equalizer. Sometimes the seat height doesn't fit you perfectly, but you've got to adapt and make yourself, I guess, flexible so that you can ride similar bikes to your teammates. So 2 types of exchanges are a bike exchange. You have 2 riders of varying heights, so they'll bring an exchange, stop the current bike and hand off to the next. You also see the rider exchange, which is a little bit faster. Here's a bike exchange, for example. 2 bikes in play. Rider comes in, you see the touch, and the next rider stomping on those pedals. Oh, and in fact, she's...
Yeah, Alpha Gamma Delta got in the middle of the riders coming in and couldn't get up to speed quick enough and had 2 come right up on the back tire.
And you don't want to impede. For future riders, you really want to hold your line and stay straight. You saw her sift into the pack just a little bit, and that's the reason for the accident.
She's coming in from the far right of your screen there. She just did the exchange and just crept into the pack there. When, like you said, you need to keep your distance out after doing an exchange. You need to look behind you, make sure you have enough room there. She just tried to close in too soon before getting up to speed. It's unfortunate for the other teams that got wrapped up in that behind her, but it looks like everybody's up and there was not a yellow flag. We're still green here, still racing. They now just got a penalty assessed for that move.
We saw the black flag come out. And so remind me, I caught that, but Hans, recap on who that is. It going to be Alpha Gamma Delta team number 5 that's incurred the penalty?
I think it is going to be Alpha Gamma Delta. I'm just assuming right now. But what they did, they impeded on the riders that were in the race. When they're doing an exchange, they got in their way, they slowed them down, and they actually ended up making them crash. So it'll likely be a 5-second penalty, but we'll have to see what's assessed. And they're going to have to serve that penalty, I believe, within the next 10 laps.
Kappa Alpha Theta with the exchange, and we'll keep an eye out on when they're going to serve that.
And for the penalty, you have to, penalty box here right after the start-finish line with the big X in it. The rider has to come to a screeching halt. There's an official there with a stopwatch. They'll time your penalty, and then they'll give you the okay to take off and get going again. But just coming to a stop in this type of a race is a huge impact. You can lose so much ground just from that. And we've got DG queuing up for an exchange, a bike-to-bike. I did a lot of bike-to-bike exchanges when I was riding, having a higher saddle than most of my other riders. It might be a little bit slower than a rider exchange, but you want a bike that fits you the best.
In DG with new riders, you see not a big gap for the Delta Gamma riders, so she's got a little bit of distance to close back to the leaders. You still got AKO on the front, you got Kelsey driving it, as well as Teter sitting in a nice position number 2. But Delta Gamma's got to close a little bit, and that's one of the things that's new for you as a first-year rider. You might not get that big gap, and you might, you got to do a little bit more work.
You do, but it looks like she's been coached well, and she's watched the riders from last year and learned a lot from them, because she got right back up to the pack. She's making her way up towards the front, which is exactly where you want to be.
Wow, I think we've got a big set. The number 2 rider for Teter's on, that's Ashton DeHaan, but you've also got Chi Omega, led by Erin Dahl, sitting right on the front right now. She's done a big first set. We've got 18 laps in the book on 19. Erin Dahl's done a heck of a
They're going to serve the penalty right there. How about Chi Omega sitting where they are right now? They qualified 20th.
I think she's going, yeah. Chi Omega really has the strongest rider in the race. Erin Dahl proved herself. She had the fastest ITT, which is individual time trial. It's a race against the clock, which is 4 laps. you start with rider on each corner of the track and you race each other for 4 laps. So technically she is the fastest rider out here today.
And Rich mentioned Kyle Omega starting in at slot number 20. I think we've got an award for that, Rich. In fact, the team that moves up the most, it's called the Dixie Highway Award. It's named after George Dixie, I believe, who was a part of the foundation in the late 50s or 60s. And so anyway, the team that starts to, gains the most number of spots from qualification order to the end of the race earns the Dixie Highway Award. Kyle Omega starting in 20th today, moving right up to the front in great stature for that award.
Lap 20 out of 100. Phi Mu currently out in front. Phi Mu, Chi Omega, and Alpha Chi Omega and Teter.
So I'm sitting back, great start to the race. I think it's been safe. We're happy to hear that the girls are really okay after some of those wrecks. Oh, you see the first Kappa Alpha Theta exchange. Big gap coming out of turn 3. Is that Kappa? That's Phi Mu. That's Phi Mu. Or I'm sorry, Wing It coming in. One of our independent teams has really stepped it up over the last couple years, and that's an incredible gap. For the new riders back there, that's what you want to do. You want to hand it off to your teammate and let them enter the pack from up front. Great gap there by Wing It.
Well, that's the perfect way to do it, to get the exchange and keep your position.
P5, Alpha Gamma Delta, a 2-second penalty for illegal exchange. That announced on lap 20.
There's Phi Mu team number 8 on the front. Where I was going with it earlier is Erin Dahl for Chi Omega. She won individual time trials. She's out there just doing a monster first set here on lap 22. She hasn't come out yet. Erin Dahl for Chi Omega sitting in that 3rd spot, looking really comfortable and certainly showing us why she won individual time trials this spring.
And I think it's Phi Mu still on the front, still driving it.
Indeed it is.
Doing a lot of work out there. It looks like they're getting queued up right now for an exchange.
Oh, and Teter's right on. It looks like Teter's right on her wheel there. Yeah, team number 10. They're not letting Erin Dahl from Chi Omega go anywhere.
She's been marked.
Teter is marking Chi Omega very closely, coming into the pit right out of turn 4.
She'll go wide. Teter will ride on. Alpha Chi Omega will give chase, followed by Melanzana. And then Kappa Alpha Theta.
We also saw AGD served another penalty. They did an illegal exchange, assessed another 2-second penalty, just served that. That puts them a lap down. That's our number 5 team that's already 1 lap down.
What would make the exchange illegal?
Well, they were trying to come in and serve their penalty. I think she overshot.
She did, you're correct.
And then I'm not sure exactly what happened with their exchange. Maybe they missed a tag. They might not have been within their pit box. There's a couple of things. You have to stay within your pit location. You have to be within a certain amount. You can't be too far out onto the track. There's a few things there. I'm not sure exactly what they got the penalty for, but it was an illegal exchange, I think.
We could get it from our PA announcer, Chuck Crabb, who's been doing this a long time, Rich. Hopefully we'll get an update on the reason for that penalty. The race is monitored by chief stewards and officials, and Mike Howard and Jonathan Purvis, we can see them in turn 1 serving this race and helping to keep it safe. Alpha Chi Omega, our pole sitter, looks like they're coming in for an exchange now. Great gap.
24 laps for Kelsey. I'd say she's feeling all right today. It's a quarter of the race. That's a good sign for their team.
And we were in that pit earlier, Hans. How many of their 4 riders do you think they'll use in the race today?
I think they've got to use all 4 of their riders. If you look at how stacked they are, 3 of their riders were in the top 10 of the individual time trials.
Cindy Shriver on right now.
Cindy Shriver on right now. She was 9th in individual time trials, but their 4th rider is not too far behind, placing 34th. I mean, to give you perspective, there's, I think, over 150 women in the race, so they're very stacked. I think they'll use all 4. They'll try to give Kelsey as much time off the bike right now as she can get. She'll probably go in 1-2 more times, but you've got to see what her teammates can do for her today.
And it's a balancing act. As a strong rider, you want to be on the bike because you want to control the race, but essentially you also want to save yourself for the end. So, you know, Kelsey making a smart move there at lap 23 or 24, so handing it off to her teammate. We'll see her rest a little bit while keeping her legs fresh in the pit, hopefully for a fast finish for Alpha Phi.
Yeah, and one thing they did last year, they did a lot of work on the front of the field. They were pulling a lot of laps. They've had a better technique of sitting in here.
Let's go down to Pam, who's with Kelsey.
So Kelsey, you've been sick this week, but it looks like you just did a monster first set. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. It's so windy out there. No one's pulling. It's kind of, last year's race is kind of the same. I remember last year Kappa and us, we pulled a lot. I don't really mind pulling. I like being out of everything, but I feel pretty good. I mean, my burnout was a little rough, but it's okay. It's pretty slow out there.
It looks like you and Teter are really cueing off each other. When you went to burn, they were right on your wheel. How are you feeling about Teter?
I think it's going to be doing that all day. I think it's going to be us and Teter till the end, so I think we both know that. I think we should help each other until maybe like lap 70 or so. Yeah.
Great. Well, awesome start.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Do you agree? You think it's going to come down to those two?
Well, certainly they've proven themselves all spring. You know, you'd like to think that Chi Omega, you know, Tom Schwegler is their coach, is going to try to keep them in it, as well as Melanzana and crew. Kappa Alpha Theta would certainly like to spoil that party,
sure.
But certainly two strong teams.
Definitely, and one of the great indicators is a spring series event called Team Pursuit. That's where 4 of your riders start on the track and race against each other, and it was Teter and Alpha Chi Omega who placed 1 and 2 respectively. So you got to believe it could come down to just those two.
Wow, and look at this acceleration by Ashley DeHaan on Teter in the white jersey. White jersey symbolic of winning the spring series, and Ashley DeHaan's just got a really solid acceleration going on. She's getting a huge gap ahead of the exchange.
We'll see if they can execute. Looks like they're setting up for a bike-to-bike exchange here in the back. There's the tag.
So the difference, what I'm seeing is the difference between Teter and Alpha Chi Omega right now is Kelsey Thornstrom from Alpha Chi rode a 23-lap first set. Teter's already on their number 3 rider. So Emma Coughlin brought it in, 10 laps in or so, got Ashley DeHaan on. Now she's exchanging again. They're turning over their riders with a little bit more, perhaps balanced strength in Alpha Chi.
Well, folks, later tonight, after you're done watching a little bike racing, and maybe for a good idea for the racers too, tune in to AXS TV's exclusive live festival coverage. Continues with Stagecoach, California's Country Music Festival. Countdown show kicks off at 8:30 Eastern. Live festival immediately followed at 9 with performances by Eric Church, Randy Gilbert, Leonard Skinner, and lots more. Stagecoach tonight, live on AXS TV.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Leonard Skinner's still in action, huh, Rich?
Hey, baby. The great ones never go away.
And in 67 years with the Little 500, that's one of the things I think of. I don't know how many more years this will be happening, but I don't see it going away anytime soon. 67 years of an incredible race. Really proud of it, and I think it's going to continue on.
Absolutely. It's great to come back here every year. We finally got a nice day. Everybody's out here to cheer them on.
Well, like the finely tuned race cars, they race up the road in Indianapolis. They push their limits, so do these Schwinn bicycles, and it takes one man to make sure those wheels keep spinning fast.
My name's Jack Allen. I'm the official Little 500 mechanic. On race day, I'd be what you call like a neutral support mechanic. All the teams have their own mechanic, but then help whoever needs something that either they don't have a part for or just something that they weren't equipped to handle. Each team gets a complete bike, and they're kind of custom for the event. They get a run of maybe 200 of them, whatever, every year. They look like a road bike, have drop handlebars, but just have a coaster brake and have one-piece cranks, which are now mainly only found on like children's bikes and just really inexpensive things, maybe a beach cruiser or something. It's this kind of, I guess, archaic technology, but they stick with it and kind of just make everyone have a level playing field. Pedal forward, it goes forward like a normal bike. You pedal backwards, and it stops just like bikes you had when you're a little kid. Anyway, there's parts inside that are all full of grease, and eventually that grease gets old and gummy and things don't move right. A thing you might do sometimes is overhaul your hub, which means taking everything apart, cleaning off the old grease, and putting fresh grease inside. I think we got it about perfect the first time here. Okay, so remember to tighten up our last bolt here and hold that reaction arm in place, and we have a freshly overhauled coaster brake hub. I guess that it gets a lot of different people riding bikes and kind of excited about bikes that you wouldn't think of normally doing that. It brings a lot of people who weren't cyclists before the event, I think, gets them on a bike, and it's just interesting to see so many people kind of get a taste of cycling.
Back to racing inside Armstrong Stadium. And let's visit with Pam Lobig, who's down in the Teter pits.
Yeah, Emma, it looks like you guys have been getting incredible burns this race so far. Was that part of your plan?
Yeah, we're just looking to follow some good teams' burnouts, just to, like, make the field work a little bit more. And obviously, it'll help us if we're burning out at the same time, so worked out pretty well.
So before the race, everyone was talking about being worried of the track being really dry and loose. What's the track like out there?
It's pretty dry still. I'm surprised because it rained so much last night, but it's still pretty dry. It's not bad, though. A little loose. It's okay.
Great. Well, best of luck to you.
Well, there you have it. That wind dries things out quick.
And there's always a conversation about how much water to put on the track ahead of time to keep it compact, to keep those cinders tracked down. The good thing was we got some rain last night. The sun's out today, so the cinders are loosening up, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to navigate around the corners.
It's a little dried out. You can see some of the cinder dust blowing around out there. And as a rider, you don't have any water bottles in your bike, so when you're out there doing a long set, you notice it for sure. You want to come in, but the benefit of this race, you can hop off, exchange your bike to a teammate, grab a drink, get some food, rest the legs a little bit.
Lap 37 of 100, 25-mile race around the quarter-mile cinder track.
You got Team Ski on the front, the ski club here for Indiana University, and I think that's Collins. Snuck up from starting in a very low position at quals, stuck up, and they're sitting on second with a little acceleration around Ski now.
Well, Ski made some sacrifices.
They did. They stayed away from my home state, Colorado. The girls, I guess, from the ski club went out to Aspen over spring break, but they decided to stay right here at Bill Armstrong Stadium.
Yeah, everybody else leaves and you stay at Armstrong Stadium and ride the bike.
That's the way it goes for the riders, but I tell you what, when you get to April and the sun's out and it's 70 degrees and you have a chance to show off all that hard work you did, you're very glad you stayed in Bloomington and worked hard on your little 500 bike.
And especially for an all-rookie team, that's really important for them to stick around here for spring break. This track is open during the whole week of spring break. Like you said, many of the teams stick around, practice all of these spring series events. They practice their exchanges. They see how the riders are feeling. And now
Teter going for a burn.
Yeah, they are. We've got about 14 teams, I think, on this lead lap right now. Pretty sizable pack still together here.
At 39, you see it heating up a little bit. Teter's got a girl out, and Alpha Chi Omega looks like they're going to do another half-lap set. They've got a girl out as well. You saw Alpha Chi Omega and green just mark Teter. Those are our two top teams. Teter bringing the next girl on.
And Alpha Chi Omega is doing exactly what Teter's coach didn't want to happen. He didn't want to be as marked there on the backstretch, but they took advantage, and they're using a whole lap to get themselves a better advantage on the rest of the pack.
So what happens with that is the field reacts. You see the Alpha Chi Omega exchange now, great exchange, right? New rider on, able to enter the pack at the front. What happens is the field reacts to really the AKO rider, Mark and Teter, so the whole pack picked up a little bit. And now you can see it bunch back together, so everything's going to come back together. But it's harder work for Teter. Alpha Chi Omega just making it a little bit harder for Teter here on lap 40.
Yeah, and we talk about those teams being marked. Now, if you look at the colors, these jersey colors that are solid represent some of the stronger teams, usually the top 9 teams. And when you're out there and you're a contending team, you have this color blindness. You want to disregard all these other jersey colors and focus in on those who are the contenders. Those are the teams who get marked. You don't want to let a competitive team get any advantage when they're doing an exchange. Otherwise, it just makes it easier for them.
And a crash just past the start-finish line.
Small crash with 3 riders.
Well, I tell you, and that was one of our strong teams. Wing It, who was on the lead lap, who went down. Yeah, exactly, Rich. You know, Wing It's been strong all throughout the 2000s, and now they've got a quarter lap lead to kind of maybe close down. We'll see how Wing It navigates that.
And they're still racing. Let's see what happens. Looked like DG.
And they put out a yellow flag, gents.
You know, you guys have seen this race a number of years. On my 13th, when you rub wheels and your front wheel rubs, as Phi Mu's did, you usually go down. And the girl in front with her back wheel, she stays up. And when that front wheel rubs and you're not able to react very well, welcome to the cinders. Intimate look at the cinders there.
Alexandra Laserwitz being tended to by the medical staff.
Yeah, anytime there's a slowdown in the pack, you have to regulate your speed with the coaster brakes, and sometimes if you hit those too hard, you might skid the back tire. It's happened to me before, this first lap of 2005 race. It happened and hit the deck, hit the cinders.
Under the yellow flag, we will step aside and go to break. We're on lap 42 out of 100.
The Little 500 on AXS TV is sponsored in part by B97, Blue Line Media Productions, Canary Cycleware, Coca-Cola, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IMU Dining Services Sodexo, and by Lamar Advertising.
My favorite thing about Little 500 is the community. The riders just become your family.
You're famous for one day, but I think the experience and the moment lasts you a lifetime.
Even though this is a bike race, the Little 500 community really is one big family, and everyone comes together to support each other regardless of the outcome.
It really creates a smaller group on campus, and it just is a lot easier to meet new people and people that have the same interests as you do.
Check a look at our current leaders. As there's another crash, and Wing It's involved in that one, and Wing It, during the last yellow flag, got docked with a 20-second creeping penalty. So things going from bad to worse for Wing It.
And we also saw Kappa Alpha Theta involved in that crash. They were just catching back up to the pack after doing an exchange.
And during our break, we got back to green, and now we're right back to yellow.
Well, that wreck caused all kinds of havoc. Conj, you're right. I see Kappa Alpha Theta Collins Cycling's now off the back too, team number 17. And of course, for Wing It, that's, you know, went from bad to worse. They 20 seconds for creeping under the last yellow, and then they're off the back trying to close up, and of course got stuck back there with some of the slower teams. It ended up in a difficult spot.
Creeping penalty of 20 seconds is effectively half a lap at least.
And we've got 14 teams on the lead lap, so now all of a sudden they're racing for place not in the top 10.
Yeah.
Really changes their day.
Yeah. If you do have a penalty, one of the best times to serve is going to be under a yellow flag because the field is going slower.
And now we're back to green. Another look.
Oh, you see Collins went down first there. And actually Kappa Alpha Theta was on the cinders as well. That's the reason for them coming off the back. There you just see a little bit of chaos, and unfortunately the Wing It rider's slow to get up, injured, and we certainly hope she's okay. But in the ideal situation, you grab the bike as quick as you can, you untangle it, and you try to bridge that gap back to the pack. Theta's trying to do that right now, as is Collins.
Yeah, I think the riders who went down, they did just that. They popped back up. They're still on the bike, trying to make up ground here.
Let's go down and check in with Pam, who is with Ski.
Yeah, okay, I'm here with the team. It's their first year being a team, all rookies. Guys, what does it feel like to be riding in the Little 500 and doing it well?
It feels amazing. We're really impressed with ourselves today. We're holding a good position right now, and I think we can keep it up for the rest of the race.
Wonderful. And I heard as part of your training you did some motor pacing. Can you talk about that, and do you think it was good preparation?
Yeah, definitely. It's been great for us. Our coach, Tom Saccone, has a motorcycle, and we will pace ourselves off his speed, and it helps just to have him as the draft, like the pole position, so we can all draft off him and get up to higher cadences without really exerting too much energy with it.
It also helps with attacks and sprinting, so you can really tell it's working.
Wonderful. So an all-rookie team leading the race halfway through. We'll see if you guys are leading the race at lap 100.
Okay, thank you.
You know, what a great question by Pam Lobeck down there. How did you build the speed to stay on the lead lap? We got Ski Cycling, one of our top 10 teams right now. And of course, they talk about the old trick, riding behind the moto. You know, learning how to turn your legs over at a really quick intervals, and that's certainly keeping Ski out there, getting big gaps, great exchanges, and up there in the front.
It's a great way to train. You build that speed, and guess who else Tom has trained on his motor pacing? Eric Young.
The name sounds familiar, Hans. The name sounds familiar.
It is familiar. Former Cutters winner. And,
dominant rider.
Absolutely. So if they could pick up anything from Tom and motor pacing, I think they're doing all right, and they're proving it out here right now.
Eric, of course, helping Cutters win from 2008 until 2011, and now riding for Optum Pro Cycling. You know, top of the line domestic professional team here in the United States. I talked to Eric recently. He's excited about the Tour of California. He thinks he's got a stage in his cards. So going from the Little 500 to the Tour of California. And
very cool.
Yeah, very cool. And Ski, you know, the coach passing down a little bit of the history to the girls. Training techniques.
Alpha Chi just did an exchange in the green jerseys. Now, so much of these races come down to jockeying for position, and you know, one of the aces who really knew how to coach it is with us on the sideline this year, Pam Lobeck, on just trying to stay in it, trying to stay clean, and then understanding when to put the hammer down.
And she may not be coaching this year, but Delta Gamma sitting in 5th position right now. They may all be new, but they're defending that yellow jersey in pride. Oh, you see that's
wipeout right after the exchange.
Alpha Chi Omega exchange, yeah.
It's not uncommon. When you get off a bike after doing an exchange, sometimes your legs are just jello. And that really shows they gave it everything that they had when they were out there on the bike. And there's no penalty in that. If you've done a clean exchange, you can fall down so long as you're not impeding anybody behind you.
Collins and Theta still on the lead lap, about a quarter back, trying to work together to get themselves through the pack.
You see Chi Omega getting a little gap. Teter's on the front, just kind of stomping out the laps there in a comfortable roll. Now you got Chi Omega coming in for exchange. Out of that difficult turn 4, we'll see how they do. It's a rider exchange, and because it may not have been the fastest exchange, but because that rider getting off the bike for Chi Omega had a nice gap, had a nice burn, you know, the new rider getting on has the luxury of entering the pack from the front, which is exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, and they stay wide enough to let all the other riders progress through and not impede.
You get a look at the yellow jersey there for Delta Gamma, and you also get a look team number 20, Chi Omega, coached by Tom Schwegler, riding right in the bunch, sitting next to Kappa Delta. Kappa Delta maybe being a little bit of a surprise for us in the booth today, not somebody that we had on our radar.
True.
With some championships under their belt, great to see them in the lead group.
Coached by Norm Hoos, my coach for Alpha Tau Omega as well.
Delta Gamma, Kappa Delta with 1 win coming in 2007, increasing their odds by riding really smart today.
Lap 56 of 100, and still a large pack in contention.
It's one of the biggest packs I've seen in a women's race. You know, we've got great statistics up here today for AXS TV. It looks like we've got 13 teams on the lead lap. And so, you know, instead of that win creating opportunity, which are some of the words that we heard in the pits earlier, to date, has not really created any opportunities for teams to open up much of a gap or make a breakaway.
Yeah, I think it is kind of an equalizer. It's keeping a lot of the teams in the pack and giving them a break while they're drafting. I've seen a lot of teams stick in contention right now.
Well, and if you remember, Kappa Alpha Theta, a team that went down during the wing it wreck in red, Kappa Alpha Theta is back up there in second, and you see a little bit of chatter from time to time. You know, when they're in there trying to keep the race safe, there's a couple things you can do when you're talking. You know, one, you can be trying to fool your competitor and saying, hey, I'm really not feeling that good. Maybe you should come up and give a harder pull. Or you could be communicating from a safety perspective and just saying, you know, hey, let's keep this thing safe. Let's string it out. You know, you're going to ride second wheel and then pull through, you know, when I pull off to the right. All that communication just helps to keep the safe race. It also can be tactics.
And I think Kappa Alpha Theta, they've got to talk a little bit while they're in there, because I think they are a lap down. And if they're, unless they made up the gap after the crash that they were involved with. So I think they are. They're back on the lead lap now. They're probably talking to each other and deciding who's going to do the work, who's going to rotate through.
Well, they've got a lot of experience, so it doesn't surprise me that they've bridged that gap. They've got Ryan Knapp as their coach, and you know, with 4 wins for Kappa Alpha Theta, and in fact, one of the perennials, one of the reasons we have a little 500, it doesn't surprise me that they're still riding very competitively.
Another thing they might be chatting about is some teams that shouldn't be up towards the front. They might be kicking some people out of there. You kind of have to earn your way up towards the front of the race. You want the strong teams up there who you trust, who you know. If there's some team that comes up beside you that you don't recognize, a rider you don't know, they're going to be bold and they're going to tell them, you know, this isn't your place. You have to earn it.
You see it interesting, you see the tongue out from the girl in the backstretch right there. She's really trying to give him a heads up as team number 13. I think that might be their sign for, I'm coming in for an exchange. I'm not sure, but it looked like something along those lines.
That's Army, team number 13.
It could be. Every team has their signs. The only way you can communicate with your coach is by looking at them. The coaches can use whiteboards. They can flash those up with their riders. But otherwise, you want to have some kind of secretive sign to your coach to let them know you've got 1 more lap or you've got 2 more laps. Kind of let them know how you're feeling.
Since 1951, we've been racing in the Little 500, and not a lot's changed. One of the things that hasn't, bikes have changed the same, 33 teams, pits. The idea really hasn't changed much. The idea of radios has come up from time to time, and that's something that has not been allowed in the race, to keep the tradition, the 67 years of looking in the pit and understanding what your coach wants you to do.
Where do you come down on the radio argument? Do you think they should be allowed, or you want to keep tradition and no radios?
Well, you named me another collegiate intramural event where we have a tradition like this at Indiana for 67 years. Indiana University is the only one. So let's keep it as original as we can. You know, we're going to keep the gear the same. The women and the men ride the same gear. In fact, we're going to keep the bikes simple. You know, and not let that be the separator. And in fact, we're not going to have communications like radios that also, you know, separate teams maybe with more money from teams with less money. So keep it the way it's supposed to be.
I agree. I think keep it old school, keep the tradition going, keep the whiteboards out there and the code names. It's fun to see and it's fun to do.
It's what makes it unique and what makes it special.
Oh, we've got our pole team, Alpha Chi Omega, coming in for an exchange. You saw, you know, a girl has gone down for Alpha Chi in a previous exchange. That's a bike exchange a little bit safer, maybe not quite so much lactic acid in the legs, and she stayed upright there. Alpha Chi showing some of their form today.
Alpha Chi Omega, Kappa Alpha Theta, and then Crew in the top 3.
And typically when you see one of the top teams do an exchange, the other teams are going to cue off of that, like we mentioned before. They're going to mark that. They're probably going to do an exchange now too. They want to put another rider in and match their fresh rider. So we'll see if anybody takes advantage of that opportunity. I think DG is going to exchange, put a fresh rider on as well.
And a lot of tactics. You do see the DG exchange. You also, I saw the Alpha Chi Omega rider trying to decide who she was going to ride behind and where she was going to work into the pack. And she did the right thing by communicating a little bit. In fact, she got ahead of Melanzana and ahead of Kappa Kappa Gamma. It was like, you know, hey, I need to get this 5th wheel right here. I'm going to slide right behind Christian Student Foundation, team number 9. With this wind, as you guys know, watching this race so many times, riding in this race, often you don't want to be in the front, especially coming down the backstretch. You'd like somebody else to take the pull. That's exactly what Alpha Chi Omega did.
It's the smartest thing to do for sure. Make somebody else do the work. I think if you're out in front, you're doing 20 to 30% more work than everybody else. But you also have to rotate through. It's not fair to just sit back there the whole race. Teams are going to get upset, and they're going to be vocal, and they're going to tell you that if you want to ride up here, you got to start doing some of the work. So you can't expect one team to just sit in that 5th position all day.
Hans using a term fair, fair in competition, and that, that could be argued around Bill Armstrong Stadium. What's fair from a pole perspective and what's not? It certainly is. Over the years, you do want to pull through, right? But then we've seen teams kind of maybe sit back a little bit.
You do,
and be a little bit smarter and wait till the finish.
Absolutely. We've seen that.
Rich, you've caught on to that 5 years in.
Yep.
There's a lot that goes into this from a tactics perspective.
And when you look at, the number of teams, 13 that are on that lead lap, as we get to 65 out of 100, this could get really wild.
It could get really exciting. We haven't seen a huge women's sprint for a number of years. Last year, we saw Kappa Gamma go a little bit early and string it out. Of course, Delta Gamma catching them right at the line. But tons of teams, I guess we're counting 13 teams still on the lead lap here with 65 in the books.
And Phi Mu pulling off the front. They've been up the front a lot today, doing a lot of work. They seem to be quite confident to do that. Pulling into the 3rd position. She's given the sign, though. She just flashed over to her pit. She's got one more in her, I think.
Are there a handful of teams that are strong enough to separate? Work together? I mean, are there 3 or 4 teams that, if they wanted to work together, could separate from the pack of 13?
There are, and we saw that in the Spring Series events with Alpha Chi Omega and Teter, winning team pursuit by 10 or 20 seconds. Certainly, I think when they decide that it's time to go, they have the strength to go on the attack.
And the DGs have a little accident.
Yeah, they went down.
When is that time?
Well, that time is when teams start to feel a little bit of the tiredness. They feel the lactic acid in the legs, and you start to see some attrition. And that could be why DG wrecks here.
She just rubbed wheels with the rider in front of her.
Yep.
With 66 in the books, riding in your first race, perhaps not having quite the endurance, a couple little 500s underneath you. I don't know what caused that DG rider to rub the wheels, but certainly she did not want to rub her front wheel and go down there.
Now, if you take your eyes off of the person in front of you for just a second, you might come up with a little bit more speed behind them. You look up, and then all of a sudden, you're touching the wheel in front of you, and you're going down. That comes with experience. The more experience, the more years you have in this race, the more attentive you are, and the less likely that's going to happen. That's why we see a lot of these crashes with some of the rookie riders.
How would you approach this if you were Teter?
If I'm Teter and I have the strength that Teter does, with all 4 girls finishing in the top 20 in ITTs and winning team pursuit, I still wait a little bit. Here we are on lap 67.
Are you waiting until 75?
No, I'm waiting till. I don't think they want to wait until the the very end. So I'm gonna look for Teter to go on the attack before lap 92. So I'm going to say between lap 80 and lap 92, depending on how the other teams are riding and who's on the bike, look for Emma Coughlin to drop the hammer and separate herself from the field. That's what could happen.
I think that could definitely happen. And, if I'm their coach, I would also want to cue off a couple of the teams with the fastest riders on the track. Erin Dahl, she's got to be the fastest rider on the track. You've got AKO. They're really stacked. I would want to cue off their teams and make sure that when you do that attack for Teter, that you do it while the fastest riders are not on the bike. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to have a harder time getting away from them.
Ooh, and you see a little bit of separation right now. I was excited to see Ski Club Cycling team number 7 on the front, but since Teter has pulled through pretty hard, our team in the white jersey, so Teter putting in a hard set right now. That's Emma Coughlin on the bike for Teter, and Ski Club, team number 7, right on her wheel, separating themselves a little bit from Phi Mu, Kappa Alpha Theta, crew.
Alpha Chi Omega just did an exchange.
So you can start to see this is an endurance event, with 25 miles to ride for these women. You start to see some of the teams sifting back a little bit and a little bit of acceleration. You see more separation than we saw in the first 50 laps of the race. What a great job by Ski Club Cycling, team number 7.
Can they maintain it throughout?
I'm surprised as well. I mean, an all-rookie team to be in contention right now with 30 laps to go is incredible.
Ooh, in a FUB exchange right there. Hans mentioned the rookie riders. That could have come into play a little bit. The second rider just struggling to kind of make sense of the bike, surfing on the top tube a little bit, and she took a lot of time there. We'll see if Ski Cycling can get back in the mix. Ashley King's got to stay focused right now, not be rattled from the botched exchange, but just try to bridge that gap.
You're right about staying focused because the other teams are up here in the front, single file. They're starting to pick up the pace. It's getting a little bit later in the race. Everybody's a little more cautious, watching what other teams are doing. It's going to be a little bit harder for her to make up the gap, but it's definitely possible if she stays focused. You can't give up after 1 or 2 laps. This is probably going to be a 5-lap effort just to catch back up to the pack.
Crew and Phi Mu, Alpha Chi Omega, Teter and Melanzana in the top 5.
Kappa Alpha Theta a little bit back. We're starting to see a little bit of selection now. We're down from, I know there were 13 on the lead lap. And now we're down to really 6 or so teams riding as a group up front. Ski Club, of course, trying to close that gap. Teter with a low acceleration coming out of turn 4. As you see the cinders blowing in the wind. That's Emma Coughlin on the bike for Teter. Getting a monstrous gap on the field. Alpha Chi Omega is no longer marking Teter.
I was just going to say, I'm shocked actually that Teter can ride away from everybody else without being marked like that.
Now you see Alpha Chi Omega, maybe a little bit of a late reaction.
Yeah. They're queuing off of Teter, they're marking them, and they're going to do an exchange on this next lap. So everybody wants to put a fresh rider on the bike at the same time, so nobody else has an advantage.
We talked about pit locations. Alpha Chi and Teter are on the very opposite ends of the track right now. Teter's in turn 3 and Alpha Chi Omega in turn 1. Alpha Chi Omega seems to have the advantage from a tactics perspective on just following Teter and letting them go out first. More information, I guess.
Sure.
They have a little bit more information on how to react to the Teter exchanges.
Tharnstrom back on the bike for Alpha Chi Omega.
This is really getting fun in the 27th running of the Women's Little 500. Here we are on lap 74. A lot of teams on the lead lap. Beautiful day at Bill Armstrong Stadium. I'm excited for the finish.
And we'll come back with the final quarter of the race. The 27th running of the Women's Little 500. Still a large pack of riders in contention here in Bloomington.
The Little 500 on AXS TV is sponsored in part by Mass Ave Criterium, Panaracer, Pizza X, Power Bar, Smallwood Plaza Apartments, and GIS College Bookstore.
Working our way toward the conclusion of the 27th running of the Women's Little 500 race. Let's check in with Pam Lobig.
I'm here with Crew Cycling, one of the more underdog teams, but you guys look great. Was this what you were expecting?
I mean, we knew we were a strong team coming in, so we were just really hoping to come out here and do our best.
Wonderful. So it looks like Teter and AKO are the ones to beat in the end. Do you guys have a strategy for how you're going to finish it off?
Just ride hard.
Earlier when I was talking to you, they said the team chemistry is a really big part. Have you guys been working well together as a team?
Oh yeah, our whole goal is just to make sure that we are really like a healthy team environment, and as long as we are like working well together, then we know we'll ride well.
Well, great. I'm glad to see you in the lead pack. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Pam. Well, gents, we've got a pack as we come down the stretch.
What a great attitude you hear from Crew Cycling down there. During the spring, they trained hard. They haven't made it to the finals and missing out, but they're like, hey, if we're connected, if we're communicating, if we're a good team, we like our chances. What a great attitude. But Rich, you're right. We've got a huge pack for the women's little 500 now. You know, we boiled down to 9 teams on the lead lap. We've got Teter, Alpha Chi Omega, Beta, Phi Mu, who's never won, Crew, who's never won, Melanzana, who's never won, Christian Student Foundation, Ski Cycling, and Chi Omega. So we've got a lot of parity in this year's race.
At the top, Hans talked a bit. This was going to be wide open. You were right.
It is wide open right now. And I'm excited to see it. We've got 20 laps to go. Some of this strategy with, I mean, Teter is so stacked. I got to imagine that they're going to do something and see some kind of move happen here. But
AKO breaking away right now with the sprint. So they've got about a quarter lap lead.
Woj is all over it. He's got the Alpha Chi Omega Greek symbol in his pit, letting the girls know Alpha Chi Omega's got a significant gap right now.
They are queuing up for an exchange, but that is the ideal exchange right there. She's going to set her teammate up. It's a nice gap that allows a teammate to get on the bike without being too stressed, having to do too much work to get right back up to the front.
Yeah, and my old colleague Dylan Casey used to use this term fakey, you know, so they're giving AKO a lot of leverage right there. What happens if she doesn't come in and instead goes with Kappa Alpha Theta a little bit? A lot of leverage given in the field right now.
Yep. Kolar on the bike now for AKO.
She went right back to the front and dictating the pace again.
Over the top, you know, to use a track term, she kept over the top of some riders, making sure she's in that pole spot. Alpha Chi Omega being really aware, because that's Kappa Alpha Theta in red. Let me check that. That is Kappa Alpha Theta. She's waving. Kappa Alpha Theta is waving their arm, and falling off the back is Alpha Chi Omega with Kappa on their wheel, just charging through. Alpha Chi Omega making a race right now.
Kappa Alpha Theta might have done one lap too many. You saw her waving her arm like she wants to do an exchange, but now she's just falling off the back as AKO sets the pace, continues to get a gap on everybody else.
I saw the AKO rider kind of look up right there, but she's got, you know, almost 100 meters right now. She can decide, am I going to right now make this race and jump away from Thetas, Delta Gamma, some of the other teams back in the pack. Alpha Chi Omega riding really strong. That's Alex Kolar on the bike for AKO.
17 laps to go.
And looking back, a little bit further back, what's happening, you've got all the teams trying to chase up to Alpha Chi Omega. And guess who's doing most of the work? It's Teter. They're being forced to do most of the work, I'd imagine. A lot of the teams who are behind them, they're probably going to look up and say, no, you're the stronger team. You need to do the work. You need to catch up here.
Well, Teter winning the Spring Series events, wearing that white jersey. The other teams are looking at them right now to do a lot of the work, but AKO, Alpha Chi Omega, just going full gas, going cat amongst the pigeons here pretty early, you know, with 16 to go. We'll see if they can hold on. Showing a lot of strength.
The gap closing a bit. Ski now moves in front, takes the lead.
You think they put on one other rider before they set up Kelsey, finish the race for Alpha Chi Omega?
Well, if they only do one more, they have options right now, right? They can either ride 2 or 4 lap sets and kind of, you know, work their way with four more sets until the finish.
Sydney Schreiber's out right now.
Yeah, so good call, Rich. Not their sprinter, right? Alpha Chi Omega, at least one more until Kelsey Tharnstrom closes it for him. But I like what they're doing right now. They've got, you know, not a straightaway, but a half a straightaway lead on the pack.
But a touch of a fumble in the exchange, and that lead is going to evaporate.
But you know what? That lead still puts Alpha Chi Omega in front with a fresh rider.
And the fresh legs are going to show themselves on the backstretch into the wind.
There's nothing wrong with riding on the rivet, I'm sorry, as Sydney Schreiber's doing right now. They're making the race, and it's an aggressive move by Alpha Chi Omega. Could have easily gone back into the pack, you know, grabbed a wheel, taken a little bit of wind off. But Alpha Chi Omega certainly has a strategy right now to make the race and go full gas, you know, with really only 14 to go.
And pulling away with ease from everybody else. It's amazing. The whole pack was there. Teter had done a lot of the work to catch up, but I thought maybe one of the other teams that had been sucking her wheel and taking a draft would kind of leapfrog around Teter, try to catch up to Alpha Chi Omega, but everybody sat back and let them go.
All right, we've got 14 to go. When do you go to Tharnstrom?
Well, with this big gap, Rich, I think it changes things a little bit, in my opinion. You know, Alpha Chi Omega, we've been talking about Teter strengths. They've also got 3 women in the top 10 of ITTs, as well as Alyssa Becker at 34. So I don't give it back to Kelsey Tharnstrom right away. I wait and make sure that we can use Kelsey a little bit later, so that if she gets pulled back, she may have the chance to still win. So she's not out yet. I don't know, but I go to a fresh rider right now before Kelsey Tharnstrom.
If I were the coach, I would give her the bike on the next lap.
Okay.
Because Kelsey Tharnstrom has proven herself. She's a 4-year veteran rider. Now she did 33 lap set to start the race last year. She has the legs to close this out and do a 12-lap set. I think that she could do it.
You've convinced me. We've seen different strategies over the years. I don't know what's going to happen next. This is so exciting. But you're right. Now might be the time to make it.
Schreiber's last lap was still a second faster than everybody else's.
The thing you got to watch out for is if the Alpha Chi Omega rider starts slowing down.
Jehan on the bike for Teter now. Alpha Chi Omega still with the lead. Can Jehan and Teter make up any of that ground to try to set up Emma Coughlin?
Well, Ashton DeHaan's a great rider racing in the IUCC all spring. She's got a lot of ground to make up. You can see her right now charging hard around Kappa Delta, around Kappa Alpha Theta. Certainly motivated right now. So with it coming back like this has got to be a little bit less comfortable for Alpha Chi Omega.
It's coming back quickly, actually.
Yep. And look, they're going to set up an exchange.
While they're setting up the exchange, Teter is charging, and I think,
they got a bad exchange with the wipeout underneath.
It's a botched exchange, and is that Kelsey Tharnstrom getting on the bike for him? It matters at this point, but Teter's got the lead and got an edge. That Alpha Chi Omega gap is now erased.
Schreiber coming in, and Hans, you talk about the jelly leg, and you see it right there coming down. And now they go up, and they actually gave the bike to Alyssa Becker, number 1.
So now, well, you just hate to see your race decided, but with little 5, you've got to have fresh legs in order to do those exchanges.
Yeah, but they're still right back together.
They're right back together. They lost their advantage, right? So now, Rich, the strategy changed for them because now it's a 2-up race with Teter.
So is it going to be Tharnstrom against Coughlin?
That's how missing out. That's how missing out shook out for people at home. It was Alpha Chi Omega against Teter, and in fact, Teter for Emma Coughlin on Teter passed Alpha Chi Omega in turn 3 to win missing out. So we'll see if there's a repeat of that.
There was a young, tall Hall of Famer standing next to me at the Open today that said the spring series reflects a lot of how things play out in the Little 5, and he's kind of been spot on. Hans, nice prediction.
Well, it's a great indicator because it's multiple different events. Well, here we go.
And they're going to do an exchange, and they're going to get to Tharnstrom. Here we go.
Well, there's
9 to go.
There's your answer, Rich. It's Kelsey Tharnstrom getting on the bike with 9 to go, and Teter now with a little bit of gap on Kelsey. So Kelsey's going to have to burn those legs and do a little bit of work to catch up with Teter right now.
So if you're Kelsey, I'd imagine Teter's going to do another exchange at some point. They want to give the bike to Emma Coughlin. Do you wait? If you're Kelsey, do you wait for Emma to get back on the bike and do a heads-up sprint? Or do you try to take advantage of that gap and space it out and do kind of a time trial towards the win?
We've seen enough races here. I think you know it as well as I do. Kelsey Tharnstrom's not getting off the bike for Alpha Chi Omega.
No.
And whenever Kappa Alpha Theta and Teter, Phi Mu go in for exchanges, look for something vicious to come from Kelsey Tharnstrom and Alpha Chi Omega.
Well, I think we're getting our answer right here, Hans. And that Tharnstrom is just content to be part of the pack.
Got some jockeying for position. Everybody
makes
wants
a little move.
Everybody wants
coming around the outside.
You can watch all the teams putting their top rider onto the bike now. I think these are going to be some of the last exchanges you see in the race while the sprinters get ready for a heads up. Looks like it could be 6-17 sprint right now if they stay together.
DeHaan on the bike for Teter. Does Kelsey Tharnstrom have enough to close this out with 7 to go?
I keep watching for the exchange at Teter, and they're just bringing their rider out right now for a bike-to-bike exchange. So I think on this next lap, we're gonna see Teter exchange, and it could be fireworks with Alpha Chi if Kelsey decides to go for it.
Well, this is so exciting. And then you've got some wild cards with Phi Mu sitting right behind Alpha Chi. How did they get in the race? You know, we're doing a lot of talking about Alpha Chi Omega and Teter, but does Phi Mu do something to kind of throw a different card in there?
Jackie Cobra on the bike for Phi Mu.
Yeah, they have a great chance. They've not been pulling a lot in the last 15 laps. They've been saving themselves.
Well, okay, Teter's coming in for an exchange, and it's a bike exchange. So this would be probably Teter's last exchange here. You'll see Emma Coughlin get on the bike for Teter, and you'll see Kelsey Thornstrom from Alpha Chi Omega with a good little gap right now on Emma Coughlin, and thinking about what to do with it.
Well, she's looking over her shoulder right now, and Thornstrom
She is chased by Cobra. If you're Alpha Chi right now, wouldn't it be great to get a little bit of help? Wouldn't it be great if Phi Mu or Crew Cycling pulled through and said, hey, you know, we've got Teter off the back right now. Let's kind of make this continue to go. And you've also got Kappa Alpha Theta right there as well.
You're right, but look at Phi Mu. They're coming around. They want to do another exchange right now. They're going to put somebody on the bike with 4 laps to go. They'll have a fresh rider, but we'll have to see if they can close the gap that'll likely happen when they get off the bike.
Cobra with the burn, and this is risky.
I'm seeing Phi Mu, you know, making a little ground there. I think Phi Mu is going to be in the mix at the end of this and have a fresh rider on with only 5 to go.
Jenny Gillenwater off the exchange, and she'll have to get up to speed quickly. Just 4 to go.
Kappa Alpha Theta's in the mix. They've gotten second place the past 2 years. You know they want to change that. You know that they've thought about their strategy and what they have to do differently. Just, do they have enough today?
Oh, and we were in Crew's pit earlier today, and Crew had all that positive attitude. Right now, they find themselves on the front with 4 to go of the 27th running in the Women's Little 500. And you got Theta, Alpha Chi, and Teter.
Lindy Hollis on the bike for Crew. Will Kappa Alpha Theta have the breakthrough?
Now you see a little bit of the cat and mouse. I think all the sprinters for the teams are on the bike.
Around him again on the bike for Kappa Alpha Theta.
Pace is slowing down a little bit while everyone looks at each other and says, do you want to pull or are you going to pull? The people are getting into the position that they want to be for the sprint. Every team has their own strategy and position that they want to be in. And for me, I think you'd want to be second to third position on the back stretch of the final lap because you have this headwind.
And here we go.
Well, in Christian Student Foundation, the team in orange is it's snuck back up now. You can't see them just a little bit off the back, but CSF, Christian Student Foundation, making it a 6-up sprint here.
Coughlin started to make a little bit of a move and then laid off.
So Emma Coughlin has got the experience. She's won the Little 500. This is her 4th race. Wearing the white jersey or yellow jersey every year she's ridden versus Alpha Chi Omega, who's never won the race. It's going to be quite a showdown here. The newcomer versus an established champion, Teter.
Well, we're going to have a sprint. And the pack right now, looking like they're doing the warm-up lap, a pace lap. They're going to come around and let it come down to one final lap.
We're going to see the white flag here as they start to build up some speed. This is going to be a big pack sprint for the women's race.
And don't forget about Kappa Alpha Theta, the team in red with 2 seconds the last 2 years. What are they going to do to throw their cards?
A lap to go to determine our champion in the 27th running of the women's Little 500. Thornstrom and Alpha Chi Omega out in front. Kappa Alpha Theta with the chase.
But Emma Coughlin's got a little bit of speed coming out of the backstretch. She turned it on turn 2. Now they're into the headwind.
Thornstrom trying to hold on. Kappa Alpha Theta on the outside and begin the senior.
But Emma Coughlin right on her wheel for Teter.
And we're coming down to the checkered flag. And after being second for the last 2 years, it's going to be Kappa Alpha Theta with the Little 500 win.
That is incredible. I think that was Abigail Rogers. She started and finished the race for him.
Wow, Kappa Alpha Theta picking up their 5th victory, their first win since 2003. It's been a long time. We talked about it being hungry with a couple second-place wins, and she was sitting right on the shoulder of Alpha Chi Omega entering that last lap. Certainly played the cards perfectly, you know, driving it down the backstretch and closing it out, not letting Teter come around at the very end. Well, you can see Kappa Alpha Theta kind of sitting off to the side of Alpha Chi Omega there, and it looks like Teter's perfectly positioned on Theta's wheel, maybe to springboard off of it, but it just does not happen. It's Brenna McGinn on the bike for Kappa Alpha Theta.
Yeah, McGinn on the bike, closing things out. What a win. And you know what? Good for them. Good for them. So close the last couple years, and the sheer joy and thrill of finally getting a little fight. Wow. Here's Pam.
Guys, how does it feel after getting second the past 2 years? You did it!
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
All right, so I'm here with Brenna. This was your first race, and you just won the sprint. What were you thinking on that last lap?
I was praying a lot. I was praying the whole time. I wasn't thinking at all. I was thinking, don't lead.
And so you guys were down at one point, almost half a lap to Alpha Chi Omega. Did you think it was over? I mean, what was going through your mind?
No, I was hoping I wouldn't get put in. Then I got put in to catch the pack, and honestly, right before Nat put me on, I almost cried, because I was like, I'm not ready. But he's the best coach out there, and he set me up exactly for this situation, and so credit goes to him. I'm serious.
All right, Ryan Knapp, let's talk to Ryan. Ryan, after getting second the past 2 years, what a sweet victory.
I'm honestly speechless. I really don't even know it. I can hardly process it, honestly. With a team full of rookies and just, you know, the defeats we've had the last few years, I know the other side of it, obviously, but it means a lot because these girls really, you know, tried hard all spring and just were sponges for rookies. You know, they just soaked up everything. And to see her execute the sprint the way we literally drew it up this morning, it's I don't know. It's a dream situation, honestly. I can't really process it, but I'm so happy for them. You know, I'm glad our alums are here to see this. You know, the ones that have had a rough go of it the last couple of years, but you know, it's been a long time coming, to say the least. But you know, they executed perfectly and came back from some adversity too. You know, being a half lap down at one point. I'm so happy for them. Brenna is just the best teammate, and yeah, I'm pumped for him, to say the least.
Awesome. Congratulations, Kappa Alpha Theta, the 2014 Little 500 champions.
Thank you, Pam, and Teter's reaction. Teter and Alpha Chi Omega close. Well, Kappa Alpha Theta, the best riders here today.
And so much history on that Kappa Alpha Theta team. In 1987, Kappa Alpha Theta tried to enter the men's race. They had 4 women come up and attempt to qualify for the men's race. They didn't make it in 1987, but it led to the first women's Little 500 in 1988. So much tradition. You know, Nicole Vincent, Liz Milne, Chrissy Johnson, a ton of great riders. You know, today coached by Ryan Knapp and Brenna McGinn leading them to victory.
And talking to Ryan Knapp before the race, he said they may have lost a few veterans before from last year, but they're rookie riders. They did all the little things right today, and that put them in a position to win. They capitalized on that.
Folks, later tonight, AXS TV's exclusive live festival coverage continues with Stagecoach, California's country music festival. Countdown show kicks off at 8:30 Eastern, with the live festival immediately following at 9. Eric Church and a whole bunch of others with some snaps on their shirts and pointed boots. Let's go. Come on, we're in Indiana. We're in Bloomington. Tune up some country music and some awards coming to those who finish in 3rd and 2nd. A little consolation to those who get the big trophy and their name on it. How about the reaction from the winners? Talk about perfect, no filter, no media coaching there.
And we talked about it last night. Little 500 is just such a raw event. You know, it's just, you're not paid. You know, you've got a sponsor's name on your jersey that goes to the foundation, but such a raw event with pure emotion and joy in this great event.
We'll have more tomorrow. The men's little 500 live on AXS TV starting at 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific. That's going to be wide open as well. What are you looking forward in tomorrow's race?
Looking for a balanced field. You know, I'm seeing Beta Theta Pi, last year's winner, strong and hungry to come back. I'm seeing, cutters with 12 victories, winningest team in little 500 history. You know, I think they're strong going into this year. And the upstart team, Black Key Bulls, who dominated the spring series. I think it's going to be a great race.
Phi Delta Theta, they've got to be in it too. They've been in contention the past few years as well, like Kappa Alpha Theta.
Well, yeah, maybe we can see another repeat of things where somebody who's been around and been in it can use some of that experience.
I think they will. I mean, they want to change their strategy. They've been watching race tapes all year long, and they're going to watch and see what Kappa Alpha Theta did here today, and they're going to be motivated. They're going to say, yeah, they did that today. We can do that tomorrow.
About Kappa Alpha Theta hanging around and winning the sprint, letting it come down to the final half lap and winning it flat out.
We haven't seen that from Theta since Nicole Vincent did it in 2003. So, right, Rich, being comfortable enough and confident enough to let Alpha Chi Omega and Teter play their cards, take the lead, take the center stage, but be there right on the hip, coming into the turn 3 for the win.
Great. The house will be full of energy tonight.
That's right, and it's a great recruiting mechanism. I remember I was reading about Kappa Alpha Theta's first team in 1988. They didn't even have a bike room. They stored their bikes in the boiler room. But when you get a win like this, the alumni's excited, money starts to come into the program, and even more riders for Kappa Alpha Theta be excited about riding in the future.
All right. Pam, final thoughts?
Yeah, everyone thought it was going to be either Teter or Alpha Chi Omega, and Theta came out with the win. They were able to battle back from that, and then they were down that good gap to Alpha Chi Omega, came back from that, and then just executed a flawless sprint in the end. So happy for them.
Gents, what's your takeaway from today?
Well, why don't you go first?
I think Theta, they had incredible coaching. They played everything perfectly, and I expect to see something similar happen tomorrow. I think if Phi Delta plays their cards right, they're going to have the same opportunity.
So my thoughts are really Kappa Kappa Gamma was the winningest team in the women's little 500 history with 5. They're now tied. Kappa Alpha Theta back in the mix after not winning since 2003. It's just it's a program with so much tradition. It's now back on top. Kappa Alpha Theta has got to be so excited.
Congratulations. What a race. You think we'll have a large pack for the majority of the race tomorrow in the men's race like we had today in the women's?
I think looking at the weather and the wind, I think there's a good chance that we'll have 5 or 6. I think it could be a race like 1999 when Sig Up won, in a sprint with a big group kind of towards the end. So I see a larger group tomorrow in a sprint finish.
Well, one thing we know we're going to have, more sunshine, warmer weather, and that's going to mean a lot of people coming out to Armstrong Stadium. Great day today in the sunshine for the 27th running of the women's Little 500. What a day. What a day here in Bloomington. Don't forget, folks, race action continues tomorrow with the men's Little 500, 2 o'clock Eastern, right here on AXS TV. Executive producer of AXS TV Sports and today's director, Daryl Ewald. Producer, Mike Ricci. Associate producer, Jamie McClintock. Technical director, Kim Milnick. Audio, Doug Deems. Remote engineering, Dan Neighbors and Lonnie Thomas. Director of Live Operations, Chris Markwell. Transportation, Tim Sally. From our broadcast partners, Hans Arneson, Jason Sonnenborn, and Pam Lobig. So long from Bloomington. We'll see you tomorrow.
What I miss most about the Little 500 is all of the fans screaming your name, going crazy on the sidelines. It gives you such an awesome feeling, and I don't think you find that anywhere else.
The Little 500 community of going to the track and hanging out with your friends each day at practice, whether they're on your team or on the opposite teams, it's really fun to go out and spend 2.5 hours on the day hanging out and being able to work out with them.
Not only the fans, but the riders on the track every day have been such a huge support, and I wouldn't be in the place I am today without them.
Definitely the cinders. There's just nothing else like it. I'll never have the chance to ride on cinders again, so that's definitely probably one of the things I'll miss the most.
After I graduate, I may be able to ride on my own, but I won't have that team that's constantly training with me, so just the camaraderie of spending every day, riding my bike with that specific team, I'm gonna miss just the